Ladies and gentlemen, I've been joined by Lee Fang of the Intercept. Lee, how are you? Let me make sure your mic is on loudly and clearly. Thanks so much for joining me, man.
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. We were talking about your article, particularly the one today, the article you put out about the journalists who are the commentators that are on television under the guise and sometimes in writing under the guise of unbiasedness when they are actually quite literally on the dole some way or another for Hillary Clinton. Tell us a little bit more about that article.
Well, the article kind of speaks for itself, but just to kind of summarize it, we took a look at the pundits who go on CNN, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, all the major networks basically, and they pontificate and they comment on the state of the presidential race, talking about the Democratic primary, what's going on with Hillary Clinton, with Bernie Sanders, and the Republicans. And for viewers at home, they see these pundits and they're introduced as former Democratic strategists, former campaign managers, contributors to the network. What hasn't been disclosed is that for a lot of these folks, their consulting firms are being paid directly by the Hillary Clinton campaign or by the Hillary Clinton super PACs. So there's a financial tie there that's not being disclosed by the networks, and it's kind of relevant information if these people are being presented as neutral experts to say someone's up, someone's down, someone's looking good or bad, but there's no disclosure there that there's a conflict of interest.
And that's astonishing. That's astonishing to me. The fact that they're able to deal with this, and that no one has sounded the alarm until now. So one, thank you guys over at the Intercept for getting this done. And actually, I would like to talk about the fact that there is a concerted effort to discredit the entire outfit over there at the Intercept because of the type of work that you guys are doing. You're doing, to me, I feel like you guys are doing some legitimate journalism, some refreshing journalism, and because the things that you are exposing go against the establishment in a lot of ways, there's a concerted effort to discredit the entire organization. Tell me a little bit more about some of that, or have you even experienced that?
Well, look, I don't know. Whenever you write anything controversial, especially if you take on moneyed interest with a lot of resources to go after you, or just really talk about any controversial political subject, people will get upset and they will use silly ad hominem attacks and they will try to smear you. This is nothing new for me. Back in 2009, I was one of the first reporters to cover the Tea Party and some of the lobbyists and the Koch brothers, and how they influenced that. I mean, you wouldn't believe what I had to face back then. I mean, they were smearing me. They were posting all kinds of lies on the internet. They tried to discredit me in so many different ways. Koch Industries actually hired a private investigator that harassed a number of journalists, and they put up a bunch of lies on the Koch Industries website about me. Wow. But look, now I'm writing about Hillary Clinton, and you have a couple trolls on the internet saying some untrue things about us. That's fine. That's fine. That's nothing new. I mean, same thing when I've written about gun control and the gun debate and the militia movement in this country. I've gotten death threats, but this is all water under the bridge. I'm fine. It's all sticks and stones.
Hey, I feel you. I appreciate that perspective. That's kind of my mantra in life, right?
I have a question for you, Lee. That I follow you on Twitter, and I love what you and Zaid especially do at the Intercept, and I love watching your timeline on Twitter. But I believe it was you were the one who asked at the Hillary Clinton event about her transcripts, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
That you? Yeah, and now the New York Times editorial board has now asked the same thing. Do you know if the rumors about certain print journalists having her transcripts are true? Has the Intercept heard anything about that, or made any leads about those transcripts, or does the Clintons have those tight sealed? Because I know they made sure that they had ownership in these negotiations, even though all these places just offered her money. It wasn't a deal or anything, but...
Right. Well, number one, nice to meet you over at Google Hangouts. We asked this question back in January, and it's been great to see this take off and see, Chuck Todd and this question come up at multiple town halls, and now the New York Times editorial board in the print edition tomorrow has really harsh language demanding the same thing that we were talking about a month ago, because this is really an unprecedented level of influence peddling. Sure, lots of politicians have consulted and worked for different special interest groups, but the scale here is important. I mean, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton made over $100 million since 2001, mostly from special interests that will seek to influence a future Clinton administration. So I can't think of any historical precedent for this. So it's a pretty obvious question to ask. You know, what did they actually do for that money? What did they actually say? And in terms of you know, what are the next steps? You know, I saw that Mika Brzezinski comment that she knows that there are certain journalists that have the transcripts. I'm a little skeptical, to be honest, if that's true. You know, I mean, if that were the case, why haven't they published them? I mean, I don't know. We're certainly doing our best to try to hunt some of those transcripts down. I've definitely heard from friends of friends who know people who were at some of those events, but you know, we don't want to report hearsay. We want to actually find those transcripts and find documents because we want to be solid on the story. And you know, I'm sure you've seen some of the stories that I've seen. The Wall Street Journal, Politico, others have also talked to attendees of some of those Goldman Sachs speeches, and pretty interesting stuff. I mean, according to, I believe, the Politico, they said that Hillary Clinton sounded like a Goldman Sachs managing director giving a rah-rah speech, saying that, you know, Goldman Sachs, you know, they don't deserve all the anti-bank sentiment that exists in this country. I mean, granted, you know, Hillary Clinton gave those 3 Goldman Sachs speeches in 2013, right after, you know, Warren, and you know, this is the time of Bill de Blasio, so there was this kind of creeping populist movement in the Democratic Party. So it's very interesting that Hillary Clinton potentially was going to Goldman Sachs during that year in 2013 saying, hey, listen, not only am I going to take your money, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to protect your interests. So if that's the case, that's a big story, and that might explain why she won't release the transcripts.